Hello and welcome to another series of A Get a Life Moment with myself, Lisa Davies. And I'm delighted today to be joined by the owner of Carriages Cafe and Bar at Newark Railway Station, Wendy Baird. How are you, Wendy?
Hi.
I think she was a bit surprised when I asked her to do a Get a Life moment, but all will be revealed as to why I feel that Wendy is an inspirational person. So for those people who don't know much about Carriages or even Newark, and less so about you, Wendy, who is Wendy Baird? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Question, isn't it? Well, I'm the owner of Carriages. Been here for 3 years now. Well, almost 4. Open 3 years. Well, most of it open. The last few months aside. And I've been a caterer for 30 years. Don't tell. And it was a really interesting journey coming to Carriages, actually. I have a very good friend of mine called Susie Jones, who is an artist and very inspirational to me. And she, some time ago, 5-6 years ago, I had another business and it had failed. Mm. And this wasn't the first business that I'd started and had failed. I've had quite a number over the years. And so I was feeling a bit down and you know, she said to me, I think maybe you're looking in the wrong direction for fulfillment. She said, actually, I think you should, you're more of a giver than a taker. I think that you're trying to make money. And perhaps if you stop trying to make money and did something that fits more to your soul, it might be a happier journey. So we had a conversation. She just actually donated a massive picture to a homeless charity that was auctioned off in London. Mm. And while she was there, she chatted to some of the organisers of the charity and came back with lots of ideas how we could work together and cure the whole of the homeless situation, obviously.
Of course. You've got to think big, haven't you? You've got to think big.
Exactly. So 2 middle-aged women sat there with a notebook and came up with loads of ideas. And of course, the more you look into these things, the more you realise how much is actually already being done and how difficult it is to make a difference. And so we kind of went round in a big circle. It took us a few months, but it was quite interesting. But what it did do is that it made me think about an idea that another friend of mine had. And she was creating a community kitchen ethos called Kitchen. And her name's Marcia Smith, and she's an amazing woman. And she has lots of research to suggest that it's very important for us to eat together.
Yes.
And that she was promoting through supermarket surplus food, this organisation where you could pay fair share a subscription and then create a very cheap meal. Mm-hmm. So I asked her if she would allow me to do it from my cafe that I had at the time in Nottingham. And because most of the other super kitchens were in church halls or scouts huts or that sort of thing. And she was delighted because I was city centre, city of Nottingham, and very close to the railway station, ironically.
Yeah, I'm going to say there's a bit of a theme there, because I know just across from the railway station. Yeah.
But she, so I started this super kitchen in association with her, but I made a slight change. And what we did there was we didn't charge people, we asked people to pay it forward for somebody else.
Lovely.
We had a spoon system where we had these wooden spoons on the board and somebody would buy a spoon, which meant that it bought a meal. And in the 2 years that we ran it in Nottingham, I don't know how many thousands of people we fed, but we were feeding at peak probably, 90 people a week.
Wow.
Considering that we had a 14-seater cafe.
Yeah, that's incredible, isn't it? It is incredible. In context of that, it's an immense amount of people, isn't it?
It was a lot. We spilled out onto the pavement, much to the local council's annoyance. But anyway, so that happened, and then this place came up out of nowhere. Susan phoned me and said, there's this amazing building at Newark Castle station. She said, I think you should have a look at it. And I said, well, I'll have a look at it, but I've got no money. I've got no money, and I've no idea when I could do anything like that. But interestingly, and this is where I feel like we were made to come here, my mum had a dentist appointment here the very next day. Now, I mean, my mum,
synchronistically, hey,
just incredible. I mean, my mum lived in Beeston at the time, and her dentist is now in Eastleigh. She was only in Newark for about 3 months.
Really? That's incredible, isn't it?
Absolutely incredible. So, of course, I came up with Mum and we drove into the car park. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, wow, it's just such an amazing building.
It's a beautiful building, isn't it?
Oh, so I peeked through the windows and immediately phoned a friend of mine who's raises finance and always knows if there's any pockets of money for business anywhere. So I phoned him up and I said, oh, is there any grants or anything for a Victorian railway station building to create a sort of tea room or cafe? And he said straight away, no.
No.
But what he did say, amazingly, and this again, sort of compounds my belief that we were made to come here, was that he said, but I do know somebody that would back you with my say-so. And because I'd known him, a long time. And I still went, I said, that's great. He said, if it wasn't too much money. So I said, well, what would you suggest?
What do you claim? It's too much money.
So he said, well, about 40,000. And I thought, oh God, that's not enough. But hey, we'll give it a go. And so that just started this break. Oh, of course, 40,000 was nowhere near enough money. But again, amazingly, I kept finding little pockets of money and people kept helping me. And here we are, sort of 4 years on, and amazing. But that sort of change of direction, that sort of making money, which is a good thing, so I'm not making any now. But it changed my whole aspect, changed my whole outlook. And I'm a much happier person than I was before that happened.
So it's interesting because in my book, I made reference to another book actually, and something about the go-giver instead of being a go-getter, be a go-giver. So it's really interesting you should say that. And it does sound like there was some divine intervention coming into play there, doesn't it? That you were meant to be.
So many things.
Coupling together with what you were doing in Nottingham, and feeding the many people who couldn't feed themselves. How has that manifested itself then now that you're in Newark?
Well, when we first came, we started to do a weekly community cafe with a similar theme. We would close the cafe at 5 and then reopen at 5:30 here, and between 5:30 and 7:30, run entirely with volunteers and the food from FareShare. We supported a 3-course meal for £3. I can't take credit for a lot of the work because Susie's husband, Peter Jones, did the cooking. And had a lovely range of volunteers that helped him. I would come occasionally, but of course, early morning start at 6.
Yeah,
it made it too long a day for me to participate particularly. So I was only the sort of cover. But when we had the lockdown, it just brought everything to such a massive halt so rapidly, it happened so quickly. And it became very apparent that people would still need to be fed. And that they were isolated, it was a bigger need than ever. So my first thing was that instead of having people come in, I said, you can come and collect the meal and I'll do a 2-course meal for £2.50.
Yeah.
If you can't afford it, then, we'd already carried on the pay it forward thing here as well. So it was a very easy transition to make, and we stuck a table outside and got people to collect it from the table. And then I was approached by some people that said that they couldn't get in to collect, and could we deliver? And so we started delivering in association with the council, Newark and Sherwood District Council. They had some people that they wanted us to be able to feed.
Yeah.
Sort of went from there, and I mean, it went mad. I mean, the first week was sort of quite tame. I think we did about 40 meals, 50 meals. And I thought, well, this is okay. We can pull this in.
We can go with this.
Oh, but at the peak, I think that the most we did was 265 meals.
Wow.
Yes, it was. I mean, it was just mayhem, you can imagine.
Yeah.
But again, lovely volunteers and, you know, great people in the kitchen. Everybody works for nothing. It's a great spirit of things to be able to work with people that that just want to be there and be a part of something bigger.
Mm.
And we had a great time, and we still have. I mean, I don't know if you can see here. I'll just give a quick swing around. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Food.
Yeah.
Well, that's getting ready for tomorrow. So we had a fair share delivery today, and so it's sitting there waiting for our lovely volunteers to come and start preparing in the morning.
It's an incredible thing to be such a hub in the community, isn't it? How does it make you feel to have played a part in facilitating that?
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, I feel very honoured to be able to do it. You know, it's really hard to say that there isn't ego involved, because you know, it's really, really hard not to feel really happy to be able to do it. You know, so obviously I get a lot out of it, and it's led to so many other wonderful things in my life that that it makes you want to give more. You know, when it seems to be like I read a long time ago about a karmic bank. I don't know.
Right. Okay.
And I immediately liked the idea of sort of storing all these good deeds into this sort of karmic bank. And of course, I'm not a saint. I've done lots of things that, you know, I'm not so proud of. So I figured that they sort of balance these things out.
Yeah. You're putting all those deposits in.
That's it.
Yeah.
Bit of insurance.
Yeah, it's fabulous. It's fabulous. I mean, the other thing is, it's, you know, you could have just closed the door, locked the door during lockdown, got under your covers and go, oh, woe is me, I can't trade. What on earth am I going to do? But you didn't do that. You thought, how can we take what we've learned? How can we take what we know? And how can we be of service to the community? What sort of feedback have you had from people?
Oh, it's been amazing, absolutely amazing. I mean, I've met and made friends of some wonderful people. You know, I mean, I think Newark is such a wonderful town. I mean, I lived in Nottingham for, I think, 20 odd years before I came to Newark, and nobody in Nottingham knows about Newark. I find it staggering.
I know, it is a wonderful town. I think that they say that it's got more listed buildings than York, and more independent shops than Meadowhall. So, you know, we've got lots going for us in Newark, haven't we? It is a beautiful, and it really does have a really community feel to it, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny you should say that, because working with the other retailers, we've decided to put together a Christmas hamper where we're all donating something and looking to raffle it at some point, you know, to be drawn before Christmas, so that somebody's going to end up with a whacking great big basket of goodies for all of the retailers of Newark, which I think is a wonderful idea. And it just goes to show that, you know, I think there's been about 30 showed an interest in donating something so far. So it's going to be quite a nice hamper, you know.
And it just reiterates that phrase of together we achieve more. It really does. I know as part of the business community, it's just an amazing community of people, you know, whether they are retail outlets or hospitality outlets, or whether they're businesses that aren't on the high street. The community and support between the businesses is just incredible. I think it's testament to the people of Newark, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. You know, and I think it really helps, particularly when, you know, now, I mean, I was in Nottingham, trading in Nottingham for 27 years, and but I don't think I would have fared so well had I have been there. Just not so much, I mean, you know, I'd have probably done the same thing, and it would probably be well received, but there wouldn't have been the support from the community, the business community. You know, had the support of the people that were enjoying the food, or from people that were able to donate, or the volunteers, you know, but nothing like here. very different, very different.
Yeah. And how is it for you now with obviously Nottinghamshire? I mean, I live just over the border, literally like half a mile over the border into Lincolnshire. So I'm in a different tier at the moment. But, you know, how are things for you now in the current scenario?
Well, you know, I'd be lying if I said it was hunky-dory and everything was lovely. It's challenging times, but I mean, I'm fortunate that I've got a fantastic building that's quite large. It's very airy. There's lots of space. There's, you know, we can easily do the distance thing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, still quite new, relatively new. We'd never really reached capacity anyway. So we can, you know, it's just about building confidence in people. You know, people have the confidence to leave their homes and actually go out again, then I think we'll fare well, because we have, we're not a cosy little tea room, you know, we're a grand railway station cafe, you know.
And it is very grand, isn't it? It kind of takes you back in time almost, doesn't it? It does. It's lovely. It's lovely. And what are your aspirations? You know, if we can look beyond our current situation, what are your dreams and aspirations for yourself and for the business?
Well, you won't find it too shocking to know that I'm working on quite a number of other projects.
Why is that not a surprise, Wendy?
So I had to write them down so that I reminded myself. So I've at the moment, I've got a feasibility study being done for a new app by Derby University, a student from Derby University, and that's all to do with the eco cuppa, so that people would be able to find where they can take their, you know, their reusable cup and find a cafe that would give them some sort of reward.
Fantastic.
Yes, I'm excited to hear what the results are. And then we do Neighbour Food Market, which I don't know if you'd heard of, but
no, I don't know about that.
Yeah, so Neighbour Food Market we do here on a Friday, and what happens, it's all online. It's an organisation, actually it's an Irish organisation, and we use the platform for people to order from local producers. So you can do your weekly shop, but rather than going to one store, you're using a local baker, local butcher. There's somebody on there that's a dairy, yogurts. I mean, you can get now, I think we've got 500 items listed on there. Right. So place your order, we send the orders out to the producers, and then they deliver to Carriages, and then we put it all in the, you know, the separate little boxes. So as a customer, you walk in and collect your groceries all in one go. So that's, you know, that's
and you're supporting all of those local producers as well. It's incredible.
Yes, and it's a really nice thing to do. You know, it's you know, it just works really well. It's quite a good system. It's a nightmare to set up, but it's a good system.
It's going. It's good.
It's going. It's good. And then. Because I love Newark so much, I've set up a misguided tour of Newark.
Right.
A misguided tour of Newark is where you get to see the sights of Newark with an actor friend of mine who is marvellous and very funny, and he tells you lots of lies.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant.
So that's so that's another thing, and I've also created a new breakfast cereal, which I'm looking at the nutritional values at the moment to sort of roll out. You can buy that on Neighbour Food. And finally, but not least, is that I think very important for people's mental health that there is going to become more and more of a need for people to have their hand held to go back out again. Yes. Yes. I think that there's going to be lots of people that are very scared of going out, and particularly, you know, out. So into a public building. Yes. And so I've set up Get Back to Living, which is an afternoon of workshops. And there are 3 workshops. The first being from Kevin Guthrie, who I know you know. Yes, I do. Yeah. Yeah. So he talks about anxiety and why you might be stressed by the recent events. And then there's a lovely chap who you may or may not know called Wes Mollison. I always struggle, I want to call him Morrison. Mollison. And he is a Tai Chi teacher. So after you've had a little bit of time with Kevin, and the conversation, hopefully making you feel a little bit better about why you're feeling anxious, then we go into a bit of an exercise. It's very light exercise, but it's and then finally we have Steve, who is the misguided tour guide, who also writes fantastic poetry and very funny stuff. So he's the sort of closing act, and the whole the 3 workshops are really just to sort of, first is to reassure you that you're not on your own feeling awkward or difficult or uncomfortable or stressed or anxious or one of the things. And then the other 2 are really distraction techniques, so that when you leave here, you haven't thought about anything bad for at least 2 hours, and we've just received some sponsorship from the company called Barcode
Warehouse. Yes, yeah.
They've just sponsored us for 3 workshops. So
fantastic.
They'll be in November. So when I get bored.
It shows that you've got such a community spirit, but such an entrepreneurial mind as well. So those combinations, it's interesting that, you say it's taken so long for you to find that balance, that that speaks of your soul, that meets your own personal values of having that entrepreneurial mind, which often historically has been about driven to make money, but actually this is kind of almost like a community or an environmental type entrepreneurship, isn't it? That's very collaborative and brings people together. And I think that's just absolutely wonderful. Such an inspiration, really, to hopefully to anybody listening, but anybody who's thinking about setting up in business, having this go-giving approach rather than go-getting, it just shows how powerful it can be.
I couldn't agree more.
So as I ask all my guests before we finish, what is your top tip for life that you could share with the audience, Wendy?
Never give up. Just keep going. I think don't fight a tide, though. If it feels wrong, and you don't push against it, because I think it's better that you give up on that. So train just going past.
That's all right. It makes it all better. You're at the train station.
And no, I think I've been called tenacious before, because if I have an idea, I will carry it on until I cannot go any further. And but then then you do have to let it go. But don't give up too early, because it never works out as you think it's going to do. Nothing ever.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's really, really interesting. There are some great people that we would look to on the world stage who I wouldn't say you never fail, you only get feedback, or you fail forward. They learn from it. And there's some great entrepreneurs out there on the world stage that they didn't get it right first time. They've tripped up several times and learned from it in order to do what they do now. And so you were just in training, weren't you? That's all it was. Just in training.
Well, it's funny because for years I was really cross with my family, because we moved around a lot as children. It's almost like an annual event. We would move. We were in the pub trade, so mum and dad would get a pub somewhere, and we went as far up to Gretna Green, to Farnborough, and everywhere in between. But I realised actually what it gave me is it gave me a lot of courage. Because I don't have a fear of change, and I can adapt quickly to change, because I've had to do it a lot in my training.
In your training, in your prerequisite training to where you are now.
Exactly. Don't give up.
Don't give up. Absolutely brilliant speaking to you, and just hearing of all the amazing things and all the amazing ideas that you've got going forward. And I'm sure there are always new ideas percolating for you, Wendy. You're just that type of person. But thank you so much for spending the time with me today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm honoured.
Thank you.